Today's video we're going to talk about what's called the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is used to solve quadratic equations when you can't solve by factoring or by taking the square root of both sides. If you notice, I have the quadratic formula listed, x equals, and then it's negative b plus or minus, and that means that we're going to be both adding and subtracting the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. It looks kind of long, but all we're going to do today is we're going to identify what a, b, and c are, and then we're going to substitute the numbers into the formula. Now to identify a, b, and c, we have to use this standard form that we have talked about before. The a is the coefficient in front of x squared. The b and its sign is the coefficient in front of x, and the c is the constant, the one without the variable. When you identify a, b, and c, you do not put in an x. So a is just a number, no x, or no x squared. B is just a number. Don't put the variable, no x. And c is just a number. Never had a variable to begin with. So let's try identifying a, b, and c in these four problems. And if it helps, we can write ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, so we can see where each one's located. All right, so again, a is located in front of the x squared. B is located in front of the x, and C is the one without the variable. So if we take a look at what's in front of x squared, there isn't anything, so it's a 1. So A equals 1. For B, it's what's in front of the x. So the B is negative 4. And the c is the one without the variable, so c equals negative 5. All right, let's try example 2. This time we have 0 equals, but that doesn't matter. We can have the 0 in the front. So if I wanted to line it up, I could do that again. And so a is what's in front of x squared, so a equals 2. B is what's in front of the x, and there is no number in front of x, so that means there's a 1 there. So B equals 1. And C is the one without the variable, so C is negative 6. Notice I'm always taking the sign that goes with the number. All right, so let's take a look at the third example. So if I go to try to line it up, ax squared, that lines up. But notice when I go to write plus bx, there is no term with an x. So where is this one? There is no term with the x. So if I were to rewrite it and I didn't have anything with the x, right, I could put the plus 9, that's my c. So the x term's missing. So that means it was 0x. So now we can have everything lined up. So A equals negative 8. B is now 0. Right? Again, it's because the x term was completely missing. When there was an x before with no number in front of it, it was 1, but the x was totally missing. So 0 times anything makes it go away. And then C equals 9. And if you want, try to give example 4 a go on your own. Maybe hit pause and give that one a try. Okay, so if you tried example 4, if we had lined it up, ax squared, right, that goes in front, that's first, plus bx. Okay, that we have bx, but notice I don't have a c, right? I don't have any more terms. So there isn't a c in this one. So let's try to figure out what we have. So a, the number in front of x squared. Well, I see a negative but not a number, so that means it's negative 1. So a equals negative 1. B equals 7. And again, there is no c number, so we have to think, what did we add that doesn't change its value, that doesn't change anything? So we added 0, so c equals 0. Now, for example 3 and 4, notice one of my terms was 0. It's because we only had 2 terms. We didn't have the 3 terms that we had in example 1 and 2, right? We had example 1 and 2, we had an x squared term, an x term, and something without an x. But 3 and 4, we didn't have that. So expect one of the terms to be, or one of the A, B, or C to be 0, but you have to be careful which one was the missing term. That's the one that was 0. Okay, so now we are going to start filling in the quadratic formula. So notice I put that over here on the side so we can fill that in. All right, so but before we can do that, we have to identify what A, B, and C are again. So if we take a look, A is what is in front of x squared, so that's 1. B is what was in front of the x, that's negative 4. And C is the constant, the one without the variable, it's negative 5. So when we go to fill in the quadratic formula, notice some of it's filled in already. If I were to go in order, so x equals, right here's the x equals, just like we have x equals, and then we have to fill in negative b. So we have negative, the b value was negative 4, so that's already all filled in, plus or minus the square root of, so we have, now we have under the square root, we have a b squared, so I have b was negative 4 squared, so we have all that, minus, the formula has a 4 built in, so minus 4 times the next term is a, which was 1, and after that there's a c, so there's our missing term, so c was negative 5, and then the bottom of our quadratic formula is 2 times, right, that's, right, here's 2, 2 is built in, 2 times the a term, and the a was 1. Okay, trying another one. Here's example 6. Let's identify a, b, and c, and let's fill out our quadratic formula. So a is the number in front of x squared, so that's a 2, right, so there's a. B is the number in front of the x, which would be right here, so that's positive 1, and c is the constant, so that's negative 6. So filling in our quadratic formula, we have x equals, so that's filled out already for us, x equals negative b, so a negative sign, and the b was 1, so that's filled out already, plus or minus, got that, so make sure you're writing it, the square root of, right, that's all there, then I take the b term and square it, so 1 is the b term squared, minus 4 is built in, times next to 4 is an a, so the a is 2, so we have that now, times the c, which was negative 6, got it, all over 2 times, and it was an a, so I put in a 2 there. Okay, example 7. So we have a equals negative 8. The b is what's in front of the x, which I don't see, so b was 0. And c is the one without the variable, which is 9. All right, so let's fill it in. So x equals, got it. Here's x equals. Then it says negative of b. So I fill in the b in those parentheses, which was 0. Okay, I have the plus or minus, I have the square root, and then it's b squared. So I fill in the b again, which was 0. Minus 4 is always in the formula, that's built into the formula, times the a was negative 8, times, there's a blank there, c, so that is 9. All over 2 times the a value, which was negative 8, and that's already filled in. So there we go. So we filled out the quadratic formula. We will be calculating what our answers are in the next video. So let's try 2 more. Okay, so in this next one, okay, so let's find what a equals. So a equals, so a is in front of x squared, so a equals negative 1. There's no number there, right? So it's negative 1. B is what's in front of x, so that's 7. And c is the constant, and there isn't one, so it's 0. All right, so let's fill out our quadratic formula. So x equals, got it, right, there's x equals, negative of whatever the b was, so negative of whatever the b was is 7, and this negative's always there, it's built into the formula, so put 7 there, plus or minus, got it, square root of, then I take whatever b is and I square it, so b was 7, okay, squared minus 4 is built into the formula, times the a goes next, so a was -1, times c was 0, all over, and then the bottom has a 2 and an a next to it, so 2 times a is -1. All right, great job filling that out. Let's try one more. Oh, okay, so in this one, it looks like we don't have anything started for us, so we got to write it from scratch. All right, let's find a, b, and c. So a is what is in front of x squared, so -6. B is the coefficient of the x, so 11. And c is the constant, so -14. All right, let's fill out our quadratic formula. So x equals, right, there's the beginning, x equals. All right, then we have on top of the fraction, if you want to put your fraction line, you can first. We have a negative, okay, I got my negative sign, and then whatever b is. So whatever b was, I put it in parentheses, so it was 11. Then we have a plus or minus sign. It was right after, don't forget that. Then a square root symbol that had a few things underneath. All right, it had a b that was squared. So b was 11 squared, and I always put parentheses there. Okay, minus, that's just a part of the formula, and then -4, again, a part of the formula. Next to the 4, I'm multiplying by a, so every time I'm plugging something in, I'm putting in parentheses. So a was -6, then next was c, so c is -14. All right, so there's all the whole top. And then at the bottom, there's a 2 already in the formula. That 2's always built in, and then times whatever a was, so -6. So notice I put all my numbers in parentheses when I substituted them in. All right, now you're going to try it on the assignment. Good luck.